But when you know that someone is telling you because they think they know better, or maybe they do know better than you, but they're coming from a perspective that they're smarter, they're more experienced, whatever it is, you should do this. That's probably when I bristle the most.
And you know the person's coming from like, I have superior knowledge and you don't know anything about this, you little peon. So therefore I will tell you as your great master what you should do.
In all of the good times and even the trials, through tears and through laughter, yeah, I know that I'll smile when I think of you. Smile for the things you do. Smile, God gave me you. You are the reason I smile. Yeah.
This is Behind Our Smiles.
Pursuing connection.
And finding joy.
Even in the struggle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Behind Our Smiles podcast. We are Joe and Tara Buchanan, and we're so grateful to be hanging out with you.
Me too.
Well, thank you. One of my favorite things that we do on the podcast is when we ask you what makes you smile about your husband or wife. And if you want to share that with us, you can. Just simply email us, Tara, T-A-R-A, at behindoursmiles.com. Today it is Andy. He's sharing about what makes him smile about Melissa. And he said, Melissa makes me smile every time we run into someone I, quote, should remember, unquote. Now, real quick, before the conversation starts, I quickly give her an elbow and she knows to remind me of their names. My panic melts into familiar conversation and I get peaceful smile on my face.
I love when we get these messages and they're so super specific.
Yes.
It's not just like, oh, it's her smile or her laughter. It's like the moment that you're feeling kind of awkward. You're talking to a stranger. Like, I don't know their names. You do the little elbow. She pitches in and the conversation goes on. So thank you for sharing that, Andy. It is such a great example of just the little kind things we do for each other to make awkward moments into peaceful ones. And I think I've given you an elbow before.
Yeah.
You know, like there's like this.
Yeah, like, hey, not just that, but you should do this, or maybe you should do that.
Well,
or
and this one, like you should remember. And I thought there are things that we should do and we don't. So like today, like the word of the day is should. It's like we're in kindergarten. Let's learn about the word should.
Yeah.
If I were a teacher, I would be saying that. So lately, this is one of those things that I've been working on personally. The words we use have meaning and they reveal our motives. And so many times there are things we should do, but we often say to each other, we start a sentence with the words you should.
Yeah.
So this is like the question I pose to myself and I pose to anybody else. How many sentences do you say that begin with the words you should?
And since you've been working on it, I've also been thinking about it and working on it because many times it's not even intended to be like, you should do this. You know, it's just kind of the way we talk in our English language sometimes.
It just spills out.
Yeah.
It just spills out. You're like, honey, you should do that. You should. And we're not saying it's like bad word, at the S word. No, kids say that. It's a bad word. But I think it's something that we need to think about. I think you should think about it too, Joe. And I think you should talk with me about it right now. But I can check my heart and my motivation. Why am I saying the words you should to this person? Now, there are things that we should do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we should do. We definitely have.
Well, there are moral imperatives, right?
There are definitely things like, you should do that.
That God has for us. We should love one another. That's what 1 John 3:11 says in the Bible. 1 Peter 2:21 says we should follow in his steps. How about Psalm 143:8? Show me the way I should go.
So there is this should, right? There's this ought. Like there is a right way to do things and a wrong way. So we definitely agree on that. But somehow things get conglomerated and all fluffled when we begin to like put it from me to you and you to me. And we say, funny when, you should do that.
Yeah. And when there's something about a husband and wife too, right?
You should.
Or parents to kids or kids to parents. And for whatever reason, the closer you are to someone, the more that should just really pops out.
I think if I'm going to contradict that, I often get you shoulds from strangers, and that's really weird too. If you're just a stranger talking to someone, you're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this weekend. We're going to go here. It's like, oh, you should do this and you should do that. Or like, you don't even know me and you're telling me what to do. But really, we are telling each other, what to do. And our human nature just kind of bristles at it. Like, are you telling me what to do? So like, I know for me, it's I've said you should. So sometimes there's times when like you forget your lunch. And so you tell me, honey, you forgot my lunch. And I immediately tell you, well, here's what you should do.
Yeah.
You should go here and get yourself a sandwich. And you're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, but you should, honey. You should go get yourself a sandwich and eat lunch. It doesn't matter, whatever. And you don't really seem to always take my you should well in that moment. What are you thinking in that moment when I tell you what to do?
I don't want to be told what to do, right?
But isn't a sandwich a good idea?
It might be. And I might like really be hungry and I might really want a sandwich.
And other times, like even like ordering at a restaurant or ordering food, you know, I'm like, you should order this.
Right.
And I've been told that as well. Oh, you should order this. And immediately like, no, I'm not.
I don't really want to.
Don't tell me what to order.
Yeah.
It's little things like that are just kind of annoying. And then there's times you tell me what I should do too. And I'm like, I don't like that either.
Well, and it's cool because now that we've been working on this, we're able to call each other on it. Did you mean you should? Or
you should.
That's a great idea? Or maybe you could?
It's so tricky. Like, so one of the things, like, you tell me you shoulds a lot too. And again, it's not even what you're telling me to do is a wrong thing. You know, sometimes like it's my dad's birthday. And you're like, you should call your dad.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I should. That's a really good idea. But I don't want you to tell me what I should do.
Yeah.
And now you've changed to like, hey, today's your dad's birthday. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm going to call him.
But I think changing it from simply, because I think there are times when it's like, you should get out of the street. You know, there's a car coming. So those things are fine.
There's definitely a nuance here.
And I think that we do give each other benefit of the doubt because there are times when it's just the language we're using, or you should get something to eat. Oh, I'm so hungry. You should eat something. Okay. But I think we've really worked on trying to change should to could, right? Kind of like, you could eat something.
Well, the reason I'm thinking, though, the reason it's damaging or not received well too, it's not just the person receiving it who doesn't want to be told what to do. I know for me, the person giving out the should, it's from a place of pride. I know better for you what you know for yourself. I know what you should eat. Since I know that, I'm going to tell you, you should order a sandwich. And so I think that's where we're going in on. I'm like, I know the answer. You know, raise your hand in class. I know. This is what you should do. And it's such a place of pride to automatically assume that I know.
What I find interesting in exactly what you're saying is there are times when someone will use the word should. You should do this. But I know they're not coming from that perspective. And so it's not offensive. It's like, okay, you're basically saying I could, but you're using the word should. And I'm fine with that. But when you know that someone is telling you because they think they know better, or maybe they do know better than you, but they're coming from a perspective that they're smarter, they're more experienced, whatever it is, you should do this. That's probably when I bristle the most.
And you know the person's coming from like, I have superior knowledge and you don't know anything about this, you little peon. So therefore I will tell you as your great master to tell you what you should do. Even like so ordering at a restaurant or the driving. We did the driving a few weeks ago. You should take this route. Oh, we get a lot of long conversations.
You should slow down.
You should slow down. You should take this route. And like we talked about the idea of going, there's a different way to say it. I think we automatically bristle at that should, because it's not just like what we have to do. It's just that moral superiority. Because there are times that I tell her what to do, but we don't necessarily say should. Like, you leave the door open. Can you close the door, please? Or, you know, can you take the garbage out? Instead of saying you should take out the garbage, it's like, can you please take the garbage out? Or to our kids, you know, please take the garbage out. Please pick up your shoes, rather than saying you should, which implies it like that's, I don't know. For me, I feel when I'm saying it, I feel like I'm coming from a place of superiority. And when I receive it, I come from a place of they think they know better than me.
And I can always tell, the best way to tell where someone's coming from is to not, if I don't do what they think I should, if they get upset about it, then I know that's why they're coming from this perspective. There are times when I've told you just like, hey, you should start dinner now, right? Or something along those lines. And you're like, well, I'm going to do it in a half hour instead. And I'm fine with it. Then it really wasn't saying you should. It's just kind of the way it came out. But if I get frustrated, that's just a great example. I can't even, I don't
think you've ever told me you should get dinner ready. I think
I'm just using this as a quick example. But whatever it is, if I say you should put your shoes on or whatever it is, if you're going outside, if I get a, if,
This is a really good example.
I can't even think of any good examples.
I don't know where to put my shoes on.
Right.
Thanks for telling me, babe.
You should lock the door, right?
You should lock the door. You probably have said that. Yes, honey,
Yes.
you should lock the door.
You should
Yeah.
lock the door. But if I get offended that you don't,
Mm-hmm.
that's because my should is in the wrong place, I think. Right?
Right. And I think sometimes we do overstep and we tell people advice, right? Because a should is also an advice. So, hey, we're going to this place this weekend. And someone's like, oh, you're going to love it. When you're there, you should go eat at this restaurant. You should go check out this place. And so some of it is helpful advice. Like, thank you for sharing that advice. But sometimes it's advice we didn't really need. And I think with a lot of situations, people give you advice. They're like, I did not need that advice. Why are you telling me you should? I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. Stop telling me what to do. So,
But isn't that, if we were going to dissect that or dig in a little bit deeper, isn't that also a prideful response? Like, if you say to me,
Yes.
you should do that, and my response is no because you said I should, then that's a response I need to work on as well,
and
right?
there are times it's true. Okay, Joe, let me tell you where you should me. I have like a little mark on my hand, a little cut. Oh, honey, you should put Neosporin on that. You like that one? I'm like, yeah, I should. I don't want to get it infected either. So it's like, but it's not, on one hand, again, we have someone not being receptive to other people's influence, not being receptive to other people's advice. Obviously, if people know more than me, I should honor that, right? I should listen to people who know more than me. But people who know more than someone else shouldn't act as if they do. I don't know. It's a hard one.
Again, coming back to the marriage relationship, it becomes difficult because there is a dynamic at play to where you can be offended. And if I'm not giving you benefit of the doubt, your should is going to impact me more. And if we're already not in a great place, your should is going to impact me more.
I mean, the biggest thing in my mind really is this idea that neither of us is above the other. So it's not like a parent-child where, to some level, a parent will tell a child, this is what you should do. And that's the job of a parent. You should wash your hands after you, go to the bathroom. You should look both ways before you cross the street. So I think there's that shoulding that has to happen from a parent to a child, from like a true authority to someone who really needs to learn. And that does happen in real life. But in our marriage relationship, I'm not above you and you're not above me. It's not like, okay, Joe's just going to tell me everything I should do. Like that's not like earlier, you're not my real should in life is not my husband. It's here's what God's asked me to do. Here's what the Bible says I should be doing. And I submit myself to that first versus wanting to please you. And okay, Joe, I put a Band-Aid on it because Joe told me to put a Band-Aid on it. You're a little funny like that. But you know what what's worse than you should?
Uh-oh.
You should have.
Yes.
I've said that before and I've received it before. Like when you make a mistake and things didn't turn out well and someone or your spouse was like, oh, well, you should have not done that.
Right. Information that would have been helpful.
And what's your response to that? Like,
well, and the worst part is if they say, I told you should.
Yes, I told you should have.
You should have.
You should have not. You should have gotten gas yesterday, honey. You should have this.
And I think that really, it does come out within the marriage relationship for sure, but I think our kids end up getting a lot of that too. Like
we tell our kids that sometimes, like,
you
hey,
should have.
We told you to get the wash done, and now you don't have your favorite outfit. Right. You should have done your wash yesterday.
So we're working on that because that's not a really good response or a good thing to say to them either.
It doesn't really build others up. If we're talking about the idea as a way to build each other up and encourage each other, you should have. Now, I think turning it around, we absolutely can take that and own it ourselves, right? Joe, I'm sorry I didn't get that done. I should have started that earlier, right? I'm sorry I'm running late. I should have woken up earlier. So I think we can say I should, right? Hey, I know what I should do and I know I blew it. I should have done this. I should have done that. But I think when we turn it to the you should, it just gets bristly.
Well, I can't remember a time when that ended really just went superiorly well. Right? Went incredibly well. If one of us makes a mistake and the other says you should have, I can't think of a time when that just went extremely well.
I know.
Right?
I'm like, it's one of those things you have a hard time. Like, how do you finish the conversation? Okay, honey, you really should have done that last week. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you for telling me. No, that
Yeah,
never
like
goes up.
I blew it.
Yeah.
You know it. I have not lived up to your standard, and now what do we do? Like,
Right.
versus like, so we need better ways to talk about the things that we want to encourage each other to do.
Because I think
but not
correction,
should.
there is an element
Yes.
of correction that's important.
And teaching.
Yeah, and teaching, right.
When you're driving, you should put on your turn signal, right? You teach.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm driving and you're telling me to should, that's different, right? Because I do know that I should put my turn signal on. So if my turn signal's not on, it's because I've forgotten and not because I don't know. So then you'd say it differently to me. So I'm about to turn and my turn signal is not on. And you want to say, Tara, you should put on your turn signal. What's a nicer way to say that? That's not as
You could.
you could. I don't like
a
that.
turn signal would be really good right now.
Yes, I think you can just be a statement. Yeah.
Hey, have you thought about the turn signal?
Have you thought about the turn signal? Let's see, what else would I have you say?
The driver
Did you
would
notice that
appreciate
your
it.
turn signal is not on yet?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I would think I would take that nicely. Right?
It's hard in the moment, though. It's really hard in the
Okay,
moment.
so
yeah.
how about back to your sandwich, and you're like hungry for lunch, and you tell me I don't have a lunch,
You know
and
what
I'm
sounds
about
good
to
right
say,
now?
okay, you know what sounds good right now?
Sandwich.
Well, that's
Would you enjoy a sandwich?
so I tell you that I want a sandwich first.
No, you just say, you know what sounds really good? Or I bet you would enjoy a sandwich.
I bet you would enjoy a sandwich right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that would be helpful to say. Yes. I bet you would enjoy a sandwich right
We
now.
should practice that more.
Okay. I would say to you here, tell me that you don't have a lunch and I'll practice.
I don't have a lunch.
I think Jimmy John's is open all day.
There you go. Instead of saying you should have packed a lunch.
Well, no, like
you should
if
have
you
thought
just,
about that.
yeah, you should have not
Yeah.
forgotten your lunch.
Jimmy John's is open. Yeah, that's good.
All the day. Or just empowering the other person. What do you plan to do about that? And then you'd say, what would you normally say? Like,
I'm going to run over to wherever.
yeah, you should do that. But then I'm just telling you, like, you made a good choice.
Yeah.
But so I think there's those times. So other thing, I think we like the idea of, you know what I love? So we go to a restaurant. Oh, you should order this. This is the best thing in the menu. And again, you are trying to help the other person. You are trying to say, hey, this is a good food. You should try it. But to get the shit out of there, just say, oh, you know what meal I love? I love the burger and fries. It's so good.
And sometimes what I've started to say that I think is more helpful is if you're looking for help, let me know. If you're looking for an idea or a starter, or like, let's say you're at the restaurant looking through the menu and you don't know what to order. If you're looking for help and what to order, let me know.
Before
because-
you offer advice.
Yes. Right.
So even back to your sandwich. Hey, do you need help with that problem?
right.
And if you don't, I
Yeah.
don't need to give you a should. But it is putting our hearts in the perspective of serving the other people and serving the other person and say, here's how I can help you without a should, I think comes off as true help rather than feeling like I'm above you, just telling you what to do.
I think another thing that you've been able to do too, Tara, or at least I think I've seen this reflected at times, is this is how it worked for me. Or this is what worked well for me. So if I'm trying to figure something out, instead of saying you should do it this way, this is what, basically in a nutshell, this is where I found success. This is what worked really well for me.
Well, I think that refers to the concept that many people refer to, which is sharing instead of telling. So don't do it. That's wrong. Saying, hey, when I was doing that, this is what I learned. So you're sharing your own experience. Hey, when I had that hamburger, it was so good. And then you can take that information and decide for yourself whether or not you want to order it versus me saying you should order it. So I think learning to share with each other and saying, hey, here's my experience and my thoughts, and you can do with it what you want.
And I think it too comes down to an honest conversation because it may not bother you as much as it bothers me, although it does bother us both. So, but having that conversation and saying, hey, do I say you should too much? And when I say you should, what would be a better way for me to phrase that?
Let's try a rephrase and a reset.
Yeah.
Like, you should get that done. It would be really helpful to me if you got that done today.
Yeah.
Rather than you should get that done today.
So what you're actually saying in essence, though, is, Joe, you should stop saying you should.
You should definitely stop saying you should. It would be a good idea to stop saying you should.
Yeah.
And in my experience, it's been helpful for me to stop saying you should.
Yeah.
And again, mostly I would encourage myself to say, just do a quick heart check. You should do this. You should do a quick heart check and go, why am I telling someone else what to do? And where are my motives? And am I placing myself above that person? And kind of rephrase this in a way that's more polite. And would I want to receive this? Would I want to receive out the same dish I'm giving? And I kind of, whenever I do that, I'm like, oh, I would not want someone to say that to me. I would feel so cringy. And I have met people before who are just really big you shoulds. And like, you can't get their sentence with it. And I'm like, I just don't feel that same connection with someone. I don't develop that same empathy or friendship if I feel like someone is just here to tell me what to do. Versus sharing their experiences, we make a stronger connection, both in friendships and in our marriage.
Yeah, because I think sometimes too, going back to that, I think there are times when we use you should because we're animated, we're excited about something. This is so exciting. You should do this. You would love it. And I think in those situations, I just want to go back to what we talked about earlier. I think that there are times when that's not the kind of you should we're talking about.
It's just more reflective. I think even like when we're encouraging someone like, man, I don't think this dress looks good on me. You should wear it. You look great. Like you can say the word should in a way that's super duper encouraging. So I don't think it's off the table altogether. It's just we have to be careful. You should be careful with it.
Yeah, we should. I think there are times in our marriages, in our marriage anyway, where you should has crept in as a way of saying, I know better than you. And that's really what we're talking about.
So I think you should kind of wrap the episode up and then you should make sure that everything gets done. So
we should ask our listeners, we should tell them they should leave a review.
Oh, you definitely should leave a review.
Should leave a 5-star rating.
We would appreciate
yes,
if you left a 5-star review. And when I've left reviews on podcasts, it's worked out very well for me. Just saying.
But really, we're not telling you what you should do. We are grateful that you're listening. We're grateful that you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate you.
And we hope you have a great week.
Behind Our Smiles is a Wow God production, a ministry of the University of Northwestern St. Paul. Discover more at wowgod.com.